Today is November 13th. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, with a special report. We'll be getting into this and so much more, but first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Excess belly fat has been deemed the most dangerous fat of them all, as it's linked to so many health issues. The reason being, excess belly fat grows deep in the abdominal cavity and puts pressure on some of the body's most vital organs. That's one of the reasons why myself, along with so many people, are beginning to turn to this amazing new substance, which is thoughtfully formulated with science-backed ingredients that promote reduced fat storage, help to speed up the breakdown of fat, support weight management, reduce cravings, and boost metabolism. Folks, the best part I love is that you can get 51% off for the rest of the month, or until they sell out, whichever comes first. Get yours now by going to trimwithla.com. Once again, that's trimwithla.com. Trimwithla.com. I'm going to give this 30 days. I'll report back to you, and we'll see what it does. By way of review, I want to talk about, once again, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. This happened right after World War I. The Turks sided with the Germans. The Germans lost World War I, so the British and the French came in, and they carved up much of what was the old Ottoman Empire. You can see in the brown and the light brown what it actually controlled, which was basically most of the Middle East, all along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. So out of that, we now have the modern countries of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine, or Israel. Now remember, the Balfour Declaration came about in 1917 also, which basically stated that we're going to give some of this land back to Israel. Well, you know, the Arabs weren't too enthused about that, but at the same time, they were given all this other land from the old Ottoman Empire. So this is really the nexus of the conflict. So if Israel has no rights of a land, then what about Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan? Because those countries, those modern countries that we see now, were basically just created out of thin air. They were part of the Ottoman Empire, but no one ever talks about that. So if we're gonna, if Israel has no rights of a land, then what about so-called Iraq or Syria or Jordan or Lebanon? All this was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. And of course, after World War I, these modern states were created. So let's continue. What I find interesting here is Russia is turning increasingly hostile towards Israel as it picks sides in the Middle East. Are we looking at the nexus, the formation of the Ezekiel 38 prophecy? Strong possibility, not saying we are, but what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. As a student of biblical prophetic narrative, I'm all over this, looking at it every single day. A great news source is Raptor. Go to YouTube and go to Raptor, R-A-P-T-O-R, Raptor News, and Google that. Israel, up it will come. They do a no-nonsense report daily as to what is going on. So if you want to stay abreast of the situation, check that out. Lebanon is, they're still going at it. There's no ceasefire. Every single day there's mortar rockets, there's missiles being fired back and forth, there's tanks being deployed. Most of the population in northern Israel has been completely evacuated. So it's now a military zone. Much of our On the Trail of a Nephilim tour was going to take place in northern Israel. So that was, we were slated to go over there. In fact, I'll just digress for a second here. We were supposed to go on Thursday. So the war broke out Saturday morning. We were supposed to be there on Thursday because we were going to land in Israel, meet up with the archaeologists, and go up to Gilgal Raphaim. That never happened because of the Prophecy Watchers Conference. So on Saturday morning, Bob Ulrich called me up very early in the morning. Israel's at war, and that's when we pulled the plug on going over there. And, there's no way I'm going to lead 50 people or 45 people into a war zone. So what I find interesting about this article, when the Israeli-Hamas war started a month ago, Russia was conspicuously measured in its immediate response. Russia's sober response was seen to be caused by the Kremlin weighing up its competing and conflicting vested interests throughout the Middle East. Russia has always enjoyed constructive relations with Israel. So things seem to be changing there. Also, check this out. Muslim leaders blast Israel crime, Iran. Solution is Palestine from the river to the sea. So the Iranians, let's go back to our very first map here. The Iranians, and you can see in the sort of the upper right-hand corner, you can see Tehran, that's the capital of Iran. So what's amazing about this, and you remember for thousands of years Iran was called Persia. What's incredible is that for the river to the sea, so they will not recognize any part of Israel. The hatred is so deep, and it makes no sense at all. Why do you hate the Jews so much? What is it about them that you absolutely want to wipe them off the face of the earth? What are we looking at? And of course, there's no answer other than a supernatural one. Let's continue. Vladimir Putin's move to secure a Libyan base is new regional worry for U.S. Well, isn't that interesting? So what we see here is the Russians now in bed with Libya. I want to read something to you. So I'm going to go down the list of nations in the 38 Ezekiel war, Ezekiel 38 war. Magog. So Magog is definitely Viscisians. This is Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and others. So in order to get there, they've got to come through Iran. I'm sure Iran will allow them to go through. We'll see what's going to happen. Rosh is definitely Russia. Meshech and Tubal, that is modern-day Turkey. Persia, this is the land of modern Iran. Remember, Iran was called Persia for millennia. So this is, they recently, just in modernity, they switched the name to Iran. And that's a 3-hour discussion, which I won't get into. Kush, or Ethiopia. This land is often translated as Ethiopia and is the same as modern-day Ethiopia. Put, also translated in some versions as Libya. So Gomer is part of northern Turkey. And what we see is this, and I want to be very cautious here. I'm not saying we're looking at Ezekiel 38, but by golly, something's happening here. And the nations that I just talked about seem to be very loosely coalescing. So this is why we watch. This is why we know what prophecy states ahead of time. We look at it. We're not date setting. We're not saying, hey, the Ezekiel 38 war seems to be looming in the horizon. But in some ways, it makes me wonder whether this is what we're looking at. And of course, I don't really know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't want a crystal ball. But the bottom line is we watch and we're ready. We'll watch and we're ready. Because if Ezekiel 38 happens, all hell breaks loose in ways that I can't even get into. I will not read the scripture here, but I would challenge you to go and look up and read Ezekiel 38 and then Ezekiel 39. What you will read there is astonishing because this was written thousands of years ago. And what it seems to be describing is a neutron bomb. Israel does have the neutron bomb. And if she is completely surrounded by hostile agencies, by those who wish basically to destroy her and wipe her off the face of the earth, she will use the neutron bomb. Folks, we are in very tumultuous, uncertain times. Absolutely. And when you combine what's going on in the Middle East with the burgeoning UFO sightings, Congress talking about it, whistleblowers coming out, the government stating that we have crashed UFOs, that we've got biologics. I'm not making this stuff up. And this is why we're feverishly working on our number 14 in our the books that I've written. And this will be on the ladder of disclosure. Anyway, folks, the Iranian president calls to eliminate the Jewish state. So there is no two-state solution. And this is why when I hear that, it's an absolute farce. Because when you have the mullahs in Iran, the Iranian president calling to just completely eliminate the Jewish state. So there is no two-state solution in this man's mind. But the hatred of the Jews is so vitriolic. It's part of their national identity, not the Iranian people. Please don't misunderstand me. but there is an element that controls the body politic in Iran that basically are foaming at the mouth. And how do you deal and sit down with people who call for the elimination of your country and your fellow citizens? This is why the Israelis say never again. So I'm just appalled at what I see. I pray for an end to the violence, but what was written will come to pass. What was foretold seems to be unfolding. Again, I would challenge you to read Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39 because it's mind-boggling, mind-blowing. Check it out. Anyway, folks, I will be the Coming Great Deception. I will be there in Lubbock, Texas, the fellowship in Lubbock. It's there on our website, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. The dates are January 26th to the 28th. I know it's only November, but you want to register, you want to get a seat early. Check that out. Go to the website and sign up today. I might be going to a conference. It's local here in Southern California. One person took me up on the fact that I will come and speak at your church for a love offering in Southern California. Okay? Waiving my normal fee. I'll just come for a love offering because I can drive there. So I would love to do that. We're here till the end of January, so check that out. Also, folks, our cattle mutilation film is now available, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net, as well as further evidence. And I will be reading from this on the Mothman, which appeared in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I'll be reading that for Friday's show, Supernatural Confrontations. Don't forget the 5 DVD box set. You can go to lamarzulli.net and avail yourself of these incredible DVDs. We're the only Christian ministry that has 6 UFO films out at the present moment. 7 and 8, Gil Zimmerman will come down, my business partner. He'll be down here on the weekend. We'll be putting the finishing touches on 7 and 8, which is a deep dive on the Roswell incident with Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr. and his father, Jesse Marcel Sr. It was not a weather balloon, in our opinion. We actually went out to the debris field, and what we discovered there is astounding. And then, of course, we're working on number 9 in the series, What is the Truth? And Josh Peck is working on the rough edit for that. Anyway, folks, there we are. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate it, and thanks for subscribing. You can click that. Go to our website. There's so much there to look at and glean from. That's why we create these resources. You'll want to check some of that out. So we'll see you back here tomorrow with a very special On the Trail of the Nephilim, where I will be discussing the elongated skulls of Paracas.